I'm curious about the rules of the musical. What that is, if you guys can articulate how you see it. Because even this last song that Leah sang seemed a little different than any song we've seen in the show so far, where she's almost like in a music video, she's appearing and singing in her mind in the hallway.
Well, it's got to be loosely put into reality. So like she said, can I rehearse in the auditorium? And it's just, that's enough for us. No one can really break into song in the middle of a scene, because then it is cop rock, and it is a musical, and it's not really a musical. It's a comedy with musical numbers in it. And so something like that is, we take liberties with theatricality and with style, I think, sometimes, to be able to say, okay, she's rehearsing there, but what's really going on in her head? Well, she's also singing in front of her mirror at home, and there's a moment there maybe in her head where she really is singing to Finn and feeling that way. So as long as it's enough of a grounding in reality that you could say, well, I can see how that would happen without somebody turning and saying that's bizarre, then it's enough for us. Very thin line out here.
And what about the choice of songs? Dante, is it really I imagine you deal with some of the music rights and those kinds of issues, or do you guys struggle with what are the songs we want, certain songs, and you can't get the rights for them? Because I imagine also
we've been really lucky. The music choices all come with the script, and a lot of it is guided very specifically by Ryan. We've got almost every single song that we wanted, and it's quite a range. And the difficulty is doing this on the schedule of a television show. So very often there'll be a text message, and there'll be a title of the song and some brief description, and we immediately begin a clearance process and a pre-production process. And we're all as anxious as anyone else to know what's coming next in the script, and no one really knows, but we kind of have to get the numbers and some idea of what they are. That's the biggest challenge, is just the time frame. Just trying to do all of that in 8 days is a struggle. We had 17 days to do the pilot, and we have about twice as many musical numbers in every episode of the show now, but it's a ball.
And are there rights issues in terms of, a show like Ally McBeal can't get on DVD now because they don't have the music cleared. Do you have to clear everything now for ever?
Everything, yeah.
And is that tough with a Kanye West song?
Yeah. It's some numbers are surprisingly difficult. We have a number coming up that there's nothing about this song that you would think would be difficult, and suddenly I was speaking to some very belligerent attorney in London because somebody in the Bahamas had claimed credit to a sample that was in a piece, and anyway, it works out. It usually works out. About 95-98% of the time, we get the song we want.
There seems to be a real commitment to diversity on this show. Is that deliberate as I think it may be?
Yeah, I was actually surprised by that too. It just kind of happened. We were never like, oh, we need the principal to be Indian. Like, it just kind of happened. He's hilarious. That was actually Brad's idea. But he's hilarious. Like, as soon as we wrote this character, I pictured kind of a doughy, kind of white dude. And then Iqbal had worked on Nip Tuck, and Brad was like, I think this guy would be great. So, for instance, that just happened. I don't think we ever sat down to say, like, well, this has to be the most diverse show on television, but just ended up that way. It was a kind of a cool evolution. You're just like, wow, that person's great. And Asian. Fantastic.
Well, we didn't want it to, the show is supposed to have a real broad appeal in the sense that you want to find yourself in it in some way. And I think, I think what people react to the show, just in my opinion, is that they have that feeling of, everyone has that feeling of being put upon at some point, being an underdog and looking to find their voice somehow. And so in casting it and in creating the characters, there was a thought like, well, you do want to give those voices certain looks that people can relate to. So you do want African American in it. You do want some East Indian in it. You want some handy,
someone in a wheelchair.
Someone in a wheelchair, and that was actually something really important. We actually we thought, how interesting. And in Glee Club, it's about dancing. Put someone in a wheelchair, and what's that? And we have a really great episode coming up, which is really all about. It's called Wheels, and everybody has to get in wheelchairs for a good portion of it. There's a big, huge wheelchair dance number that's pretty spectacular.
I think the beauty of the show in many ways is that you make fun of everyone.
Yeah, nobody's safe because we're never, it's always, as long as you know nobody's safe, then it's okay. As long as you know you're not, nobody's the top or the bottom, you know. The cheerleader gets it as bad as, you know, as the person at the bottom of the run.
And each of you, every character it seems has sort of his or her own episode. Can you guys tell us a little bit about each of your upcoming first episodes and what we can look forward to seeing, both storyline wise and what you're excited about?
Can I tell them?
Just be cagey.
Absolutely.
Just be cagey.
Well, in the episode after this, Kurt comes out to one of the Glee Club members, and it's the first time he comes out to anyone. And then in the episode following, he comes out to his father. And anything else? No. Okay.
That's enough. That's enough.
You know, it seemed like like I was saying, there are good gays and bad gays and good people and bad people all over this show. And is there a real sort of, are you deliberate about, like, we want to balance this out and show everyone to be kind of crazy, but also kind of show their heart as well?
Yeah, everybody's damaged now. You know, Sue's got a pretty good surprise coming up too. Everybody has some damage that makes them who they are and makes them, you know. Sue's damage is deep.
What's your surprise? What's your surprise?
Well, I bought myself about 7 episodes of heinous behavior more due to an episode that we did. I probably shouldn't. I have earned my terrible behavior in episode 6.
It seems that in the hands of a lesser actor, we could just loathe your character, but you managed to make her really appealing. Is that just what comes naturally, or just how do you do that?
Being a charming, evil person. I don't really think of. I didn't set out to do that, but you always want to try to find something true that lives in you. And when you're dealing with something that's truthful, it has many sides to it, and it's not just one thing. It's not just evil. So hopefully, you're not just seeing, like Hitler-esque kind of person. You can kind of see a little of the softness around the edges. But I won't be doing a lot of hugging in this show. That's
Are there other individual storylines you want to give us little hints of?
Well, it's so much fun to see how my relationship with my wife unfolds. She's a whole lot of crazy, and dealing with the pregnancy and stuff, and that's very interesting. But actually, Jane and I have an episode that's called Smackdown, where we just go at it.
almost come to blows.
Yeah. That's one of my
call me
favorite
bitter
episodes.
and lonely at one point, and we're just scratching each other's eyes out, almost literally.
Yeah, and she is she always makes fun of my hair.
Yeah, I have a thing about his curly hair, and I'm wondering what's nesting in there. The enormous amount of product that requires, and I'm fascinated with his Jerry curls. I can't get enough of them.
You seem to have a theme song, judging by the last episode. Is that something that's got to get
I
that?
noticed that was almost like the Valkyries or something.
Yeah, that's we have a really incredible editing crew,
Domineering.
and they come up with some pretty cool stuff. And so that little drum roll is definitely Sue's.
I love the theme music in and out. It's just really, really well done.
I think second season you guys should each demand a theme. Just between us. But I feel like so much of what this show's appeal is for people, probably so many people here, is this sort of the land of misfit kids, the secret lives, the sort of individual angst, and I'm curious from each of you what you relate to in your lives. That were you popular kids? Did you have difficult times too? Do you relate to this personally?
I walked the line in high school. I was in choir, and then I had friends that were, cheerleaders and popular types, and it was a very precarious walk to do that. And if I fell over on either side, then I couldn't enjoy the whole thing. But it's, I don't think there's anything more structured hierarchy-wise as high school. I think we get the worst of it there, and it's so obvious. And we certainly show that in GLEE.
I must say, you've continued to walk the line between indie films and studio films and TV and movies, and you seem to do that beautifully.
God bless. Thank you.